I never imagined that things would get this bad. I'm 23 years old, and my 15-year-old sister, Emily, has been making my life a living hell. It all started a few months ago, though it feels like it's been going on forever. I've always been close to my family, or at least I thought I was, but now I'm questioning everything. Growing up, Emily and I had a pretty typical sibling relationship. We'd fight over the TV remote, bicker about whose turn it was to do the dishes, and sometimes we'd even get along. I was always the older brother, the one who was supposed to be responsible, the one who had to set an example. But I never expected that Emily would turn on me the way she did. It started out small. Emily would make little comments here and there, teasing me about being single. At first, I didn't think much of it. She's a teenager, and I figured it was just typical sibling teasing. But then she started calling me an incel. I had no idea what that meant, so I did what anyone would do, I Googled it. When I found out, I was shocked. Incel is short for involuntarily celibate, and it's not just a harmless term. It's a label often associated with men who are bitter, angry, and who blame women for their lack of success in dating. It's a toxic term, and being called that by my little sister was like a punch to the gut. At first, I tried to laugh it off. "Come on, Emily, that's not even true. Just knock it off," I'd say. But she didn't stop. In fact, it seemed to fuel her. Every chance she got, she'd throw the word at me. "Hey, incel, why don't you have a girlfriend, or no wonder you're single, you're such a loser." It wasn't funny anymore. It was humiliating, and it hurt. One night, after a particularly rough day, I decided to talk to our parents about it. I thought maybe they could help. We were all sitting in the living room, watching TV, when I brought it up. "Mom, Dad, I need to talk to you about something," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My dad looked up from his newspaper. "What's going on, son?" "It's Emily," I said. "She keeps calling me names, and it's really getting to me. She's been calling me an incel, and it's not just teasing. It's constant, and it's starting to really bother me." My mom sighed and waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, she's just being a teenager. You know how kids are these days." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom, it's more than that. It's not just normal sibling stuff. She's really going out of her way to make me feel like crap." My dad frowned and put his newspaper down. "I'll talk to her," he said. "This isn't okay. You shouldn't have to deal with that." I felt a small sense of relief. At least Dad was taking me seriously. I figured that once he talked to Emily, she'd knock it off. But I was wrong. The next day, Dad did talk to her. I don't know what he said, but for a few days, things were quiet. Emily didn't say much to me, and I thought maybe it was over. But then she came back at me even harder. Now, it wasn't just the name calling. She started getting physical. She'd shove me when she walked by, or she'd accidentally bump into me hard enough to make me stumble. One time, she even tried to trip me down the stairs. "Emily, what the hell is your problem?" I shouted one day after she threw a book at me. She just smirked. "What? Can't take a little teasing, incel?" I tried to avoid her, but it was impossible. We lived in the same house, and every time I turned around, there she was, ready to insult or shove me. I went back to our parents again, desperate for some help. "Dad, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. She's pushing me, throwing things at me." "I can't take it anymore," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My dad looked concerned. "I'll talk to her again, but just try to stay out of her way for now." But my mom wasn't having it. "You're overreacting," she said. "She's just a kid. You're the older one, you should know better than to let her get to you." I couldn't believe it. My sister was making my life miserable, and my mom was acting like it was nothing. It felt like no one was really on my side. I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind. Then one night, things got really bad. I was in my room, trying to study for an exam, when Emily barged in. "Get out, Emily." I'm busy, I said without looking up. Oh, look at Mr. Studious over here. Studying for what? How to be a bigger loser, she sneered. Just leave me alone, okay? I don't have time for this. But she didn't leave. Instead, she started yelling at me, saying all kinds of horrible things. You're pathetic. No one likes you. You're going to die alone because no girl would ever want someone like you. That was it. I'd had enough. I jumped up from my chair. What the hell is your problem, Emily? Why are you doing this to me? But she didn't back down. Instead, she lunged at me, hitting and scratching at me like a wild animal. I was so shocked that it took me a second to react, but I managed to push her off. She stumbled back, hit her head on the corner of my desk, and started crying. You're crazy! I yelled. What's wrong with you? Emily ran out of the room, screaming that she was going to tell Mom that I'd hit her. Sure enough, a few minutes later, my mom stormed into my room, furious. What did you do to your sister? She demanded. I didn't do anything. I shouted back. She attacked me. I was just defending myself. But my mom wouldn't hear it. You're the older one. You should know better than to let it escalate like this. You should have just walked away. Walked away? I couldn't believe it. She attacked me, Mom. She's been tormenting me for months, and you're blaming me? But it was no use. My mom had made up her mind. I felt completely alone. That was the last straw. I knew I couldn't stay in that house any longer. I needed to get out. I packed a bag, took a deep breath, and walked out the door. I didn't even say goodbye. I just left. I ended up at my dad's apartment. When he opened the door and saw me standing there with my bag, he didn't ask any questions. He just stepped aside and let me in. You can stay here as long as you need to, he said, giving me a pat on the back. That first night, I finally broke down. I told my dad everything, about how bad things had gotten with Emily, how she'd attacked me, and how our mom had blamed me for it. He listened without interrupting, and when I was done, he looked angrier than I'd ever seen him. Your mom had no right to blame you for this, he said. You did the right thing by leaving. You need to focus on yourself now. Over the next few days, I started to feel a little better. Without Emily around, I could finally breathe. I could focus on my studies again, and I wasn't constantly on edge. But I also felt sad. I missed my mom, even though she hadn't supported me. And I missed the relationship I used to have with Emily, before everything went to hell. One day, out of the blue, my mom called me. She sounded upset. I miss you, she said, her voice breaking a little. I want you to come home. I'm sorry for how I handled things. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to go back home and pretend like everything was okay. But another part of me was still angry, still hurt. I don't know if I can do that, I said slowly. It's not just about you, Mom. Emily really hurt me. I don't know if I can trust her again. There was a long silence on the other end of the line before my mom spoke again. Emily's been struggling too, she said quietly. She's been going through a lot, and she's seeing a therapist now. She's working on her anger issues. I know it's asking a lot, but could you think about coming home? Maybe give her another chance? I didn't know what to do. On one hand, I wanted to believe that things could get better, that we could go back to being a family. But on the other hand, I was scared. I didn't want to go back to that toxic environment, not after everything that had happened. I need more time, I finally said. I'm not ready to come back yet. My mom seemed to understand, but I could hear the disappointment in her voice. Take all the time you need, she said softly. Just know that we miss you, and we want you to come home when you're ready. After I hung up, I felt conflicted. My dad noticed and asked what was wrong. I told him about the call, about how my mom wanted me to come home and how Emily was supposedly getting help. "What do you want to do?" he asked, his voice gentle. "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to go back, but I'm scared that things will just go back to the way they were." "Then don't rush it," he advised. "Take your time. Focus on yourself first." I took his advice. Over the next few weeks, I tried to move forward with my life. I focused on my job, saved up some money, and started looking for my own place. I kept in touch with my mom, but I wasn't ready to go back home. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. Emily called me. I almost didn't pick up, but something told me I should. "Hey," she said quietly. Her voice was different, softer, almost hesitant. "Hey," I replied, unsure of where this was going. I wanted to say I'm sorry. "For everything," she said, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't know how to respond. My heart was racing, and I felt a mixture of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. "Emily," I started, but she cut me off. "No, let me finish," she said quickly. "I know I've been horrible to you, and I don't even know why I did it." I was angry, but that's no excuse. "I've been talking to a therapist, and I'm trying to get better." I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I was silent for a long time, trying to process what she was saying. Part of me wanted to forgive her, to tell her that everything was okay. But another part of me was still angry, still hurt. "I appreciate the apology," I finally said, my voice careful. "But it's going to take time, Emily. I can't just forget what happened." She seemed to understand. "I know. I don't expect you to. I hope we can start over someday." "I miss you." "I miss you too," I admitted, my voice cracking a little. "But I need more time." After that call, I felt a mix of emotions. I was glad that she'd reached out, glad that she was trying to make things right. But at the same time, I was still wary, still unsure if things could really get better. Over the next few weeks, I kept in touch with both my mom and Emily. We started talking more, trying to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments where I felt angry or hurt. But slowly, things started to improve. Eventually, I decided that it was time to visit home. I wasn't ready to move back in, but I wanted to see if things had really changed. So one weekend, I packed a bag and headed back to my mom's house. When I walked in, it felt strange. The house looked the same, but it felt different. There was a tension in the air, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting to see what would happen. My mom greeted me with a hug, tears in her eyes. "I'm so glad you're home," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Emily was more reserved, but she gave me a small smile. "Hey," she said, almost shyly. "Hey," I replied, unsure of what else to say. We spent the weekend together, trying to get back to some sense of normalcy. It wasn't perfect, and there were still moments of awkwardness, but it was a start. I could see that Emily was trying, that she was making an effort to be better. And that gave me hope. After that visit, I started going home more often. I still wasn't ready to move back in, but I wanted to be there for my family, to try and rebuild what we'd lost. It was a slow process, but over time, things started to get better. Emily and I started talking more, trying to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy, and there were still moments where I felt angry or hurt. But I could see that she was trying, that she was making an effort to be better. My mom was also more supportive, more understanding of what I'd been through. She apologized again for not taking my concerns seriously, for not being there for me when I needed her. She told me that she was proud of me for standing up for myself, for doing what was best for me. Over time, things started to improve. I still had my own place, but I spent more time at home, trying to rebuild my relationship with my family. It wasn't perfect, and there were still moments of tension, but it was a start. One day, while we were all sitting around the dinner table, Emily suddenly spoke up. "I know I've said it before, but I really am sorry," she said, looking directly at me. "I know I messed up, and I can't take back what I did. But I want you to know that I'm doing everything I can to make sure it doesn't happen again. I nodded, appreciating her honesty. I can see that you're trying, and I'm willing to keep working on our relationship. But it's going to take time. I understand, she said quietly. I just want you to know that I'm here, and I'm not going to give up on us. It was a powerful moment, one that I didn't expect. For the first time in a long time, I felt like we were actually moving forward, like we were starting to heal. Looking back, I realized that leaving home was the best decision I could have made. It gave me the space I needed to heal, to focus on myself, and to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy, and there were times when I felt lost and alone, but in the end, it was worth it. Now, my relationship with my family is better than it's been in years. It's not perfect, and there are still challenges, but we're working on it together. And that's all I can ask for. So, if anyone out there is going through something similar, just know that it's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to walk away from a toxic situation, even if it's your own family. You deserve to be happy, to be supported, to be loved. And sometimes, the only way to get that is to take a step back, to focus on yourself, and to give yourself the space you need to heal. It's not easy, and there will be times when you doubt yourself, when you wonder if you're making the right decision. But in the end, you have to do what's best for you. And if that means walking away, then that's okay. You're not alone, and you're stronger than you think. Stay strong, and take care of yourself. You deserve it.